Hello, everyone. Welcome to Claret and Booze. My name's Nick. This is a daily ramble. Yeah, I know we've had the weekend off, had Monday off and all. Just taking it easy a little bit in the international break. It's lovely. Transfer windows closed. Still a bit of news to talk about, but we'll get onto that. Before I do, if you are new to this channel, please subscribe. As loads of you have already, it does help us. There's still about 33% of you that have watched this channel in the last 28 days that have not subscribed. So please have a look. I know a lot of you watching your TV. Just have a look. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And don't forget the most important bit, drop a like on the video. Okay. Like I said, we're going to get into what West Ham news there is in a bit. But before I do, I did watch a show last night on West Ham Fan TV. Actually, before I get into that, because I am I'm in a permanent state of arousal because my man crush is on my chest. So yes, got this from the Canning Town Lens shop. If anyone is interested, beautiful t-shirt. You can also buy the canvas and everything else from there as well. And no, he's not a sponsor, he's just a mate. So yeah, but I just think everyone should have Paqueta emblazoned all over their chest. All right. Anyway, yes, back to what I was going to talk about, and that is the show last night. It was a phone in. Nikki and Dan did a phone in. And Big Dave from the fan cams, he came and gave his point of view on the protests. I got wound up. I got really wound up to the point where I almost bounced my phone off the wall. Now look, I'm an advocate of free speech, massively, hugely. It's important. It's the most important thing that we have. But I'm also a massive advocate for debate and challenging people when they offer an opinion that isn't right. Now, in my opinion, Dave is being nothing other than contrarian. You know, he's almost coming at it from a devil's advocate point of view. And the devil's advocate position is true in this case because you are trying to represent the point of view or the position of the devil in this case, which is David Sullivan. That's exactly the type of supporter, the attitude that he wants his supporters to have, is the view that you represented last night. Now, like I said, it's important that people get an opportunity to say what they think and what they feel. I get that. I understand it. But it's also important that they get massively challenged when it's something that I don't feel is right, you know? And if you listen to Nikki and you listen to Dan, they don't agree with that point of view either, you know, in other videos that they've done. So I don't know what good that does, Dave. Now, this isn't an attack on you. It's an attack on your point of view for yesterday. Because I think you're a good fan, you're a loyal fan, you travel up and down the country, and you are entitled to your opinion. But what good do you think it does to go on the biggest channel in West Ham Fan TV with 80-odd thousand subscribers and basically demean the efforts of, I'm not even talking about the petition on this, I'm talking about the protest, demean the efforts of some brilliant people that are starting or they're continuing a movement, they're building on a movement to get this ball out of here. You know, a ball that you complain about relentlessly in your fan camps. Okay? That's what they're doing. Your first critique was the game. I think you mentioned it should be on a Saturday. Well, we can't start this Saturday because I don't know whether you know there's a little protest in London that's taking place on the 13th, which is kind of taking precedent, which is why we moved it, or Hammers United moved it to that game. That's when it's starting. So the actual campaign is starting against Crystal Palace. So I don't really know what it is that the point that you was trying to make, because no good can come from what you were saying there. You can sit there and you can think and you can believe that petitions ain't going to do anything. You know, the protest ain't going to do anything. But in this instance, what you should be doing is possibly keeping those thoughts to yourself. Because all you're doing is sowing doubt in the minds of other people. There might be somebody that was fully on board with the protest and fully on board with the petition, and they may, I doubt it, but you may have got through to someone that agrees with you, and you might deter them from coming on a protest or from not boycotting a game. And why would you do that? Why would you? It doesn't make any sense. No good can come from what you did, is what I'm trying to say. Being a contrarian from this perspective, no good can come from that. And I know that what you'll say is you try to offer an alternative. How do you know what Hammers United have got planned? I've got a bit of an insight, as I'm sure Nikki and Dan as well. there's going to be stages to what they're doing. They're kicking off the protest now. It isn't just going to be boycotts and protests, but they are a massive part of it. Because as Dan did say in the show last night, one thing that Sullivan does hate is bad press, and this is going to bring bad press. So it's incredibly important that West Ham fans have a bit of unity, Dave. That's one thing that we're all missing in life. You went on to make a point about, if you look in society now, you've got apathy everywhere, apathy on the streets, apathy in the stadium. Well, I don't know where you've been living. There's anything but apathy on the streets at the moment. People are protesting up and down the country, mate. People are angry. People are craving a sense of unity, a sense of community, a sense of belonging to something. And the same is true, to a lesser extent, of course, within our football club. And people want to get together. People want West Ham united again. Well, I'm sorry, mate. In my opinion, you let yourself down there, and you've let a lot of fans down with what you said there about this protest movement. You are entitled to your opinion, and you're entitled to not boycott a game. You're entitled to not go to a protest. I don't feel like it's that fair for you to go on air on a massive platform and say that. Because what were you hoping to achieve? What were you hoping to achieve? And apart from anything else, I think it's complete nonsense what you were talking about. Of course, it will have an influence. Now, this was all off the back of a tweet that was put out, from West Ham News and Views, where he says, a top spokesman for West Ham is board on a proposed protest from fan groups. And they say, regarding the protest, no, we won't be commenting. We don't think they help the club, nor do they provide solutions. So that's what's booted all this off. Now, who that is, it's probably Brady, probably Brady, or it could be Sullivan, whoever it is. All that's going to do is just stir up more hate towards them, to be quite honest. I mean, the bare front of them to ask us to propose solutions to them. I'm not going to get into it. There's just no point. I've said it all time and time again. There's one part of me that says they don't like bad press, and then they do things like that, and you think, Jesus Christ. But then again, they do appeal to certain people like Dave. Dave will go, yeah, see, look, I ain't going to do anything. It's not going to do anything. They're not going to go. What's the point? I'm just going to keep going every game up and home and away. Just keep on giving me money. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to keep doing it. That's much better. Of course it's not. The one thing that will achieve nothing is doing nothing. So what people are doing, when we started the petition, and then you've got Hammers United that have picked up with the protests, and you've got a lot of other channels that are jumping on board now with this. It's momentum. It's momentum against the board, against the club. Something tells me, I'm not saying that you're a flip-flopper. Something tells me if we was to get walloped and battered, brutalised by Tottenham 5-0 on Saturday, you might change your opinion a little bit. But we can't have this view as West Ham fans. It can't be because we've signed a player in Fernandes or because we won a game against Forest. All of a sudden, it's done and it's dusted. We can't be like that as a fan base. This runs too deep now. It's cut too deep. It's almost, for the board, it's irrecoverable. So unless you want to be stuck in this permanent state of purgatory, as a fan, part of a fan base, as you said yourself, they're walking away in their masses. It will be you at some point. At some point, if West Ham continue down this path, every West Ham fan, in the end, will because it won't represent. West Ham won't represent anything that you knew as a club. There'll be no one there that you recognise. It'll all be new. So it's highly likely that in the end, you'll lose West Ham from your life. Do you want that? Clearly you don't, because you travel up and down the country to watch the team. So it's obviously a massively important part of your life. So why criticise the efforts? Now, you can come up and say, right, in addition to doing this and doing that, hit their businesses. Although I don't think, us not buying Percy Pigs from Marks and Spencer's is really going to do much, apart from the fact Karen Brady doesn't own Marks and Spencer's. It's not going to do much. They haven't really got front-facing businesses as such. The fact of the matter is, you've got things like Ball Sports emblazoned across their shirt. You've got the arm sponsor as well. If people are protesting and you've got bad stuff happening against the club, then any sponsor associated with it they're not going to be reflected in a bad light. It's not the type of press and exposure that these sponsors do want. But ultimately, we don't want to crush the club financially. You don't want that. You know, we just want them to go. We want them to go. Obviously, if we have to turn the screw and take that next step, then I'm sure that we will, because this movement is not going away. And I do hope that you have a change of heart, and I hope that you do jump on board and join everyone, because it's important that people like yourself that are you are public facing. You've got a regular slot on West Ham Fan TV on the fan cams. You know, a lot of people do watch you. So it's important that you influence people in the right way. Influence people to be united. Try and get West Ham united as a fan base again, rather than dropping in nonsense, pointless, contrarian, bullshit, devil's advocate arguments. Talking about fucking chess, an argument you probably heard down the pub the other day, and executed it really badly, by the way, I must admit. All right, so just jump on board, Dave. All right, stop trying to be different. If you had hair, you'd probably paint it pink. So, moving on. Fulkrug is injured. Surprise, surprise. We don't know how severe it is, but he's back in training now. He was on the bench in Germany's first game that they lost embarrassingly, and he's flown back. So we don't know the extent of it, but from what I'm hearing, it's not great. So he's not going to be playing against Tottenham, is the upshot of that. Which means, what does Potter do? Does he start with Wilson? Are we going to now put Callum Wilson, who's basically signed up to West Ham? His legs must be so fucked. I've been impressed with Wilson, but his legs must be so fucked because he's effectively signed up for West Ham for a packet of Haribo and, you know, an appearance bonus. You know, if your legs are good, you don't sign up to that deal, do you? There's clearly problems. So are we putting Callum Wilson through 90 minutes, or are we going to use him as the impact player? You know, the 90 grand super sub, which he started the season as. Is that what we're going to do? Which would mean what? Callum Marshall up front on his own? I don't see that. Probably means Jared Bowen as a centre forward, which none of us want to see. So this does go and show the weakness, you know, the lack of depth that we've got within this squad. It's shocking. Absolutely shocking. We lose Mavropanos. We're a little bit fucked because he's our best centre back. You lose Bowen. You lose a Paqueta. There's a problem. We're oversubscribed with not very good players. We've got 10 central midfielders, but you only want about 2 or 3 of them anywhere near the first team. The rest of them shouldn't even be at the club. So that's not fair. I'm not talking about the kids, by the way. I'm talking about your Rodriguez's, your James Ward-Prowse's, and I'm not going to mention his name because some people love him. He's tall and he heads a ball. They shouldn't be here anymore. Go. But we can't get rid of them. We can't. So we're stuck with them. So we're oversubscribed in some areas and undersubscribed in others. So it's a recipe for disaster on that front. How do you think we're going to set up? You know, what is Potter going to do? I mentioned this the other day. Is he going to revert back to the back 5? Was he going to do that anyway? A lot of people were saying that he was going to play the back 5 against Nottingham Forest, but because Aguero refused to get on the bus, I ain't getting no bus. Because he refused to get on the bus, he had to go to a back 2 because he would have only had one defender on the bench. So he had to go to a back 2, which paid dividends. So I do think that there will be some strength behind that argument if he does immediately after winning 3-0 and putting in the best performance under his tenure with a back 4. If he then reverts to a back 5, there's strength in that argument that the Nottingham Forest win. We was lucky that Aguero didn't get on the bus because it was a shape that won the game. Every player knew their job. I've said this before. I'm repeating myself. But he can't go back to a back 5. And I know some people say it's not back 5. It's 3 with... It'll be a back 5 against Spurs. It will. 5 at the back, inviting the opposition on with no outlet up front. None. Jared Bowen gets ragdolled by big centre-backs when you play him down the middle. Can't do it. It'll be wave after wave after wave of attack. There needs to be a more simple structure. I don't think we've got the best players in the world, which means that you have to give them more simple jobs. Don't make it too complex. That's why the 4-2-3-1 works so beautifully. 4-3-3, whatever. But a solid foundation where you haven't got people changing positions and switching all over the fucking place. Just give them a job. And they'll do it really well because they're good players, but they're not the greatest in the world. So don't try and get too clever. Don't try and get too complex. Build on something that's won. That's won you 3 points, 3 goals, made the fans happy. So look, anyway, that is it from me. The main reason for the video was because I had to say my piece on, I'm going to say it, Dave, I'm sorry, but the bullshit that you came out with last night. Don't agree with it, mate. Don't agree with it. On Claret and Booze, like I said, we've got an open phone-in show where people can just phone in. We'll put the number up, people can phone in. You can say what you want, but if you're talking bollocks, you're going to get challenged. You're going to get both barrels in some instance. So you can say what you want. You can have your opinion on something, and we will either agree with it or we won't. In which case, we'll argue it because we've got a clear identity on this channel. We know what we stand for as people, as fans. You know, we're not trying to openly appeal to everyone. We're not. We know what we think, and if I was to come online with John and give the argument that Dave did, John would fly into me, and vice versa. I'd fly into him if he said that bollocks as well. We'd be at each other because you need to stick to your guns. You've got to kind of represent your point of view. So that's So like I said to you, it isn't because I don't think that people should have their say. That's fine. Have your say, but also be prepared to debate it. And with something like that, quite ferociously as well, because it's the one thing that most fans care most about is getting this balled out. So look, that's it from me. Enjoy the rest of your day. Speak to you soon. Come on, you ones.